Hi, this is Stan Robinson with SHR Marketing. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that some might consider mundane, but I do think you will find it helpful, and that is LinkedIn's settings. So the way that you get there is go to the thumbnail, the top right, go ahead and select Privacy and Settings, then Manage. Oftentimes it will ask you for your password again. It let me write in because I was just in here. And as you can see, there is a lot. We're going to cover some highlights here. So this is where you can change your password. In addition, you can change and add email addresses. Now, as you can see, LinkedIn recommends that you add at least one personal and one work address, because when things happen in LinkedIn, you do want to make sure that you're notified on the email that you check all the time. The other reason is because if and when you change jobs, you will be able to access LinkedIn from your personal email account, so you'll still be able to get back in. As you can see, you can manage billing information here, and this section, your active sessions, is something that I wanted to point out because many people are not aware of this. A lot of times we'll exit LinkedIn by simply closing a tab or a browser session, and that does not sign you out of LinkedIn. When you go into this Active Sessions tab, you can see where you're actually signed in. Now, I logged out of a lot of active sessions already, so I'm only signed into one. But this is worth checking on a regular basis for security purposes, because if you go a month or so without checking this, you will see that you are logged into a lot of sessions. And if you happen to see you're logged into one in a location that you don't recognize, it may be a red flag. You may want to change your password just to be safe. So this is a useful feature. It's relatively new. LinkedIn has broken the rest of this up into profile, as you can see, communications, groups, companies, and applications, and then account. And I'm not going to go through everything here, but I did want to touch on a few things. Activity broadcasts. If you're in the job search mode, you may want to deselect this like I've done here, so that your network is not notified every time you change your profile, make recommendations, or follow companies, which a lot of times is indicative of the job search. Also, when you're viewing other people's profiles, this is where you can determine what you want them to see when they go into Who's Viewed My Profile. So LinkedIn recommends that you use the default, which is your name and headline, and so do I. You can be semi-anonymous, such that something like this will come up when someone looks at who's viewed their profile, or you can choose to be totally anonymous. Okay, but this is where you control that. Another thing that a lot of people ask about is controlling who can see their connections. And this is where you can choose either all of my connections or only you can see your connections. So you do have some control over that. As you can see, it is everyone or just you. It's kind of all or nothing. Who can follow your updates? I definitely suggest that you leave this on the default, which is everyone, because people can follow you without being directly connected to you, and this basically expands your reach, particularly if you're using LinkedIn Publisher. So people who just want to keep up with information that you're sharing or publishing can follow you, and it's a great way to increase your visibility in the LinkedIn community. The other features in this section I wanted to point out are editing your public profile. I cover this in more detail on another video, but this is where you can control what someone will see if they are not logged into LinkedIn and find you in a Google or Bing or other search engine. So this is what's called your public profile, which just means what people see when they're not logged into LinkedIn and they find you otherwise. You have a lot of control over what they see. I suggest that you go ahead and make your public profile visible to everyone and select the different things that you have actually filled in on your LinkedIn profile. So this is where you can control that. Now let me skip over this. Next, I wanted to point out that you can manage your recommendations from here. So you can recommend someone directly from their profile, but if you want to see an overview of all of your recommendations, if you want to reorder the order that your recommendations are displayed in on your profile, which can be helpful, this is where you can do it, because you do want your best recommendations to appear at the top, although by default they appear chronologically. You can also ask for recommendations from right here, and this is where you can ask multiple people to recommend you at once. Okay, so just wanted to point that out. It's a nice feature. This is a place where you can go to one place and do everything with your recommendations. Next, let's go to communications. A lot of people complain that they get too many emails through LinkedIn, and this is where you can control that. So this is extremely useful. You can control how often you get messages from other members, as you can see updates and news, group digest notifications, and messages from LinkedIn. So you have the option under each one of these to select whether you get an individual email, a weekly digest, or no email at all, which just means that when you're actually logged into LinkedIn, you will see all of these things. So in order to control the flow of emails that you're getting through LinkedIn, this is where you can do it. And if you are a member of multiple groups, this is where you can control how many emails you get from the groups. So this again is very, very useful, because you can control whether you get a daily digest, which I use for my top groups, weekly, or no email at all. All right, so let's go jump back into this. Types of messages you're willing to receive. Again, I'm jumping around a little bit because mainly I wanted you to see where you can find everything. But this is where you can decide the types of messages and what reason you want people to have for contacting you, as well as putting in advice to people who are contacting you. This is where you can do that from right here. Okay, you can select who can send you invitations from right here. And you can also decide whether you want to participate in LinkedIn research, turn on or off LinkedIn partner, in-mails. All of that's controlled from right here. Next, we're going to have a look at groups, companies, and applications. From here, this is where you can choose how you want your groups displayed on your profile. You can look at all your groups. You can also look at control the frequency of emails from groups from here as well. Group invitations. You can decide whether or not you want to receive invitations to join groups from right here. This is where you control whether or not your network is notified when you join new groups. You can view all of the companies that you're following from right here. This is where you can control and look at a list of external applications. These are external partners that you've given permission to access your LinkedIn profile. And you may find that it's more than you thought. So if you want to remove some of these, select them and remove them from right here. And right here is another privacy control where you can control data sharing with third-party applications. So you have control over that as well. And next we're going to look at account. I wanted to point out manage advertising preferences because you can decide whether you want LinkedIn to use cookies and so forth to more or less track you. I've deselected this. The default is that this will be already selected, so you have to go in and deselect it if you choose. The other thing is, if for some reason you don't want to see updates from some of your connections, you can manage that from here. I also wanted to point out your security settings. This is where you can decide whether you want to use a secure connection whenever possible, and you have the option to use two-step verification for sign-in for added security if you choose. So this is just one other security feature that's available to you through LinkedIn. From here you can also, as you can see, change your contact information, change your password, upgrade, downgrade, and I wanted to point this out. Request an archive of your data, because this is relatively new. You can download an archive, as you can see, all of your activity and data on LinkedIn. It takes about 3 days for them to pull it together, and they notify you when it's ready. But this is something that can be interesting if you want to go through all of your activity on LinkedIn that they have stored for you. So just wanted to let you know that this is available. You just click right here to request the archive. In the unlikely event that you wanted to close your LinkedIn account, this is where you do it. Don't worry, just clicking on this will not close your account. You have to go through several steps to do that. Okay, that is it for today. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.